Hey there, how's it going everybody? Welcome back, Plant Abundance here. Today I'm going to be sharing with you a bunch of information on growing figs and also what's my favorite fig tree to grow and why. So here we are, it's mid-February 2018 and my fig trees are still dormant and I'm gardening in USDA Climate Zone 9B. This here is the Peter's Honey Fig. And here's a couple more figs. This is actually two different varieties planted in one plot, a brown turkey and a blackjack fig. And I also had a fourth variety that was planted right here last year. That was the white blanquette. And I decided to go ahead and remove that tree as it was a vigorous grower. It was towering in the garden and producing a very small amount of fruit. Instead, what I ended up putting in its place was a spiced Z nectar plum, a Floyd Zager variety available at Dave Wilson Nursery, which is a white flesh nectarine peach plum hybrid. Now there's hundreds of varieties of fig tree and 4 different types. The type you're going to want to grow in your garden, the most suitable, and the one most commonly found at nurseries, is known as the common fig, or botanically as Ficus corica. Not only do they not require any other form of pollination, so you don't need a second fig tree or any other type of wildlife to come in and help you pollinate those flowers, but they put off 2 crops. So the first crop of figs you can get will come off of last year's growth, and this is known as the breba. It's not as abundant as the crop you'll get later in the year, which is known as the main crop, which grows on the current year's growth. Now the 3 other types that you're probably going to want to avoid growing in your garden is the Capri Fig, which puts off both male and female flowers and requires a wasp to pollinate them. The Smyrna Fig, which produces female flowers and needs a pollinator like the Capri Fig. And lastly, San Pedro fig trees, which need pollination for the second crop but not the first crop, the breba. So if you were to grow any other type of fig tree other than the common fig, perhaps the San Pedro would work out. These common fig varieties, a couple like the blackjack and the brown turkey here, are very cold hardy. They can be grown in the ground all the way down to zone 5 USDA. And even if they do die back to the ground, which would be unfortunate, the roots remain viable and they'll sprout up a new tree. And like I said, that main crop that you're going to get from these varieties comes off that New Year's growth, so you'll still get figs. Figs also make very good container trees, so if you do live in a colder climate, put it in a pot, put it out in your garden during the summer, bring it in the winter. In fact, many fig varieties have a history where they're actually planted in pots into the ground to help restrict the root growth. The fig roots can expand quite a ways. Many fig trees will have roots that travel a long distance, which doesn't bother me in my case. I like all the roots of all my plants touching and connecting with the mycelium, but with some varieties, especially the ones that get very large, this can be a great way to restrict that root growth and also keep the plant at a more manageable height. Another strategy if you're trying to grow figs in a colder climate would be to plant it next to a southern facing wall, something that can collect the heat, the energy from the sun throughout the day and radiate that back out through the night, helping to warm the plant. Fig trees can also be a great specimen to practice your pruning skills. They're quite easy to prune and manage, and you really do start to see the effects of your work in a short amount of time. These 2 fig trees, the brown turkey and blackjack here, have been pruned in more of a shrub-like fashion so that all the figs are easily accessible. And the tallest branch at this time of year is only going up to about 6 feet tall. So I like to manage this one at a really low level. And the same thing with this Peter's Honey Fig. I allow this tree to get a little bit taller because it is more of a tree form. So what do I believe is the best fig that you could grow? Well, you're looking at it here. This is the Peter's Honey Fig. And by far, regardless of whether I bought figs at the store in the past or whatever figs I've grown here on site, this particular fig is my all-time favorite for many reasons that I'm going to go over now. So the Peter's Honey Fig originated in Sicily, and it's a green to golden skinned fruit, very thin skin, which makes it a wonderful variety for eating straight out of hand. And because of that green goldish color that the figs are when they're fully ripe, I believe that it really helps to deter pests like birds from coming in and pecking at the fruit because they just don't realize that it's ripe. So that could be an added benefit if you deal with a lot of bird issues in your garden. Out of all the different fig varieties that I've been growing back here, this has had the least amount of wildlife damage, and I attribute that to the color of the fruit. The taste of the fig is out of this world. They're sweet, sugary, they've got a jelly-like consistency, very similar to like a jelly donut. Another thing I really love about this variety is how easy it is to prune. Many fig varieties will send many shoots up each and every year around the base of the tree, which isn't a big issue, but as you can see with this Peter's Honey Fig, there's just one main stalk. There's some lower branches growing from there, but there's nothing that I'm going to need to pull out of the ground, and it just saves me time and It's a lot easier to manage. So those are all the main reasons why I really love the Peter's Honey Fig. With that being said, I've never had a fig that I didn't enjoy. So don't get too hung up on what I'm sharing with you today. I'd encourage you to grow whatever common variety of fig that you can find locally. Get it in the ground, enjoy the process. They're a beautiful tree. And besides the figs being edible, the leaves also have edible qualities. One of my favorite ways to utilize them is to throw a fig leaf or two in my rice cooker, and that imparts a nice nutty flavor to the rice. And here's a new variety I'll be trying out this year, and if you're limited on space, you may want to look into this one. This is the Viola de Bordeaux Fig, and this is a dwarf variety that only gets about 8 feet tall and is said to grow an abundant amount of these medium-sized blackish purple figs, nice and sweet. So I'm really looking forward to putting this in the ground. I did pick up a 4-inch seedling of this same variety last year for a much lower cost, and this is where we're at with the growth on that. But when I did see this at the nursery, I thought, well, let's just get another one. I've got space for both. Another thing is that fig trees are sold potted rather than in bare root form. So you can usually pick them up later in the season after all the bare root fruit trees have been sold. So you still got plenty of time to get a fig tree in the ground this year. Well, that's going to do it for now. Thank you all for tuning in. If you found this video helpful, I sure would appreciate a like. If you haven't already, I'd invite you to subscribe to the channel. New uploads every week, and I'm constantly updating on all the different projects going on around here. So until next time, this is Dan from plantabundance.com. Wishing you all a great rest of your day. I'll be talking to you again soon. Take care.